Hey everyone, my name is Gunther and welcome to the channel and a slightly different game than what we're maybe used to. We are here to check out Synergy, which is a fantastically fun game to play in the side or in the background because it's a very chill, relaxing game. And that's what I love about it. It's a more of a resource management city builder game, production queue game, if you will. And that's something new to me, so I'm here to learn it with you guys. But I do want to say a few things. Synergy is currently out in early access, but from an early access perspective, I actually really think this game's really fleshed out. There's a lot to it, and I kind of enjoy that. So we're going to start in with a new game, and we have, as with any new game, we usually have three scenarios. We have our tutorial, which I've kind of played around with a little bit. We have the anchoring, and then we have free mode, and I'm a sucker for the story of this game. So we're going to take a look at the anchoring. An organization of researchers and philosophers called the Anchoring has decided to reconnect isolated populations, help them acquire knowledge, fight environmental hazards, and understand inexplicable phenomena. We're going to go ahead and select that. We have one scenario, Back from Infinity. An organization of researchers called the Anchoring has undertaken the construction of an outpost to take a census of surviving populations in the area. During their search, they've come across a declining town affected by an anomaly whose mystery we need to unravel. And now, from a difficulty perspective, we have creative mode and we have original mode. I believe we should play the game in the original intended process. So we're going to play original mode. Just going to keep everything kind of normal, and we're going to go ahead and start the game just like that. And we are in the anchoring. So the world as we know it is frightfully small. Our lives are short and our days exhausting. We scrape our food off stones, eating it the very same day. We live in isolation and are not sufficiently aware of other human beings living beyond the sea of sand to regret our parting with them. However, not everyone accepts this condition as inevitable. We are not an organization of explorers and researchers named the Anchoring. Its mission is to try and connect isolated populations. Today, and for the first time, we call on our members to gather and take an anthropological census in the area. Before that, however, we need to lay our outpost's first foundations. Our first mission is therefore to provide our resources with adequate shelter and to build the first necessary structures. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a pause of the game. We're going to take a look at our surroundings. And you can see quite a few different biomes kind of set up. We have some water. We have water down here. We have kind of different areas. And we have our main area, so our starting stock. And we're going to want to set up around our starting stock, which is it's pretty easy. So we want to find a nice open area, and there's a reason for that. But before we do anything, we need to rip out some things, and what we need to rip out are actually stone. So we're going to go ahead and tag a few of these for our population to start working on. Now, as with any normal game like City Builder or resource management game, we have all of our core resources at the top, so we can see we have basic foodstuffs, cooked meals, water, remedies, refined products, tools, technological artifacts, plant resources, natural ingredients, fungal resources, seeds, waste, raw materials, and of course, composite matters. And then, of course, we have quite a few things around us. Now, as the game normally starts, when you play a game like this, you're like, hey, I want to go and harvest that berry, and you're going to go and harvest it. But we're in a society where we don't know what we don't know. And that means if we were to kind of take a look at the straw tree as an example, we don't know what's going to happen if we were to rip it out. We don't know all of the actions available to us. So we need to kind of research that before we go and explore it. And these are things that we always want to keep in mind. So as it stands right now, we have a few things we want to do. We're going to go to our construction menu. Almost called it our control menu. And we're going to start setting up our little village. So I'm going to set it up like so, and we're going to maybe go something like this. And there's a reason why I like to go with this style of construction. And it's because, remember, it's a resource management game, and we need to create a cellar. And we can see if we're going to set up our cellar, this is where we set it up. And we can see our area or our radius that we're going to work with. So I think we can set it up right about there, which does mean we do need to adjust our path just a little bit. Yeah. So everything's set up. We are in a good position. And as with everything, we need to set up our stone house. And there's few stone houses that we have. We actually have 3 variations of the stone house, and it changes based off the type of resources. We can see if we use 4 wood and 10 stone. We can use 10, I want to call that bark, and then 10 stone and or 20 stone. So the resource amount remains the same in most cases, but we only have really access to stone right now. So we're going to go ahead and plop down a few different houses so that we can make sure that our population is all set up. And I don't think that's something that we could harvest, so I'm okay with that. Maybe we can just kind of build on top of that. Now, from a water perspective, we always need to have water. Everybody needs water. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to place our water right here, nice in the corner, maximize all of our usage. And we need some water basins. And we also need a place to store our water. So we're going to go ahead and set it up like this. And we'll continue our path all the way down. Like so. And I think we've kind of set up everything that we want to set up just yet. We're also going to go and excavate these ruins. And the reason why we want to get the ruins is because we can get technological artifacts, and those are important things. So we're going to go ahead and rip that out as well. And I think from a very beginning of this game, from a start, I think this is exactly where we want to kind of be. We are also going to be a little smart, and we're also going to place down our first field laboratory as well. We're going to place it right about, I want to say right, I'm kind of happy with it being maybe right about here. And that's going to come in play shortly, but we definitely need the technological artifacts in order to do that. So we have quite a few things ahead of us. So as with most games, we're going to go ahead and speed it up as fast as we can and watch them go about their days, and we can see them kind of setting off. Now, each stone is worth 30 stones, so it's going to be more than enough for us to get all these houses set up. We also already have quite a few construction resources available to us. We actually have bark and whatnot as well, so we'll leave it as is. I like to build with this stone. I just like the way that looks. Now we can find that we're running into a little bit of a situation where we don't have enough workers. It's because too many people are out building stuff. So we just need to make sure that we go and assign people as we find them. And I think we're in a fairly good position. So each time you kind of finish building it, the game will notify you that you've kind of finished building it, which is actually something that's really cool. We are running into a workforce management situation. It's because everybody's off building their houses. So once these finish building, we'll see that they start to kind of clear up. And then of course we'll see that people are kind of they're happy because they have access to water, and water and food, but it's a finite resource. So we want to keep that in mind. Now, our field laboratory is set up, and we are going to start analyzing everything. We can only do a surface analysis at this stage, and we're going to maybe pick on just about everything that we can find that we feel might be important for us to analyze. Now, we can queue up 5 things. It's pretty easy to do so. It's always important to queue it up, and I think we're in a good position. So let's go ahead, and we'll keep the game running. But we have to keep an eye out for when our analysis finishes, because this is going to determine what we need or what we can do. And I'm really excited to kind of show this off. Now, in the meantime, we also have our purification basins set up. So we're going to go ahead and assign some people, maybe a second person working to the pontoon. So we just have enough water flowing in to support them. And we'll see that these kind of change with time. So right now they're taking a little bit of a break because they just don't have any water, but that's going to change relatively shortly. Now you can see, like I mentioned, you can see the construction complete here. That's letting us know. Now we have a receipt of analysis reports. So we have 2 analysis reports ready to go through. So we can see the straw trees have dry and fragile trunks that are easy to rip out from the ground, and watery pods protect themselves from the desert's dry environment with a membrane, creating a little nest of humidity within the tree. So we have a few different things that we can kind of do. On top of that, we also have these a bunch of trees. We can rip them out, and we can see that we can maybe get some bark and soft fibers and stuff like that. So it's really important for us to keep an eye on what each of these trees kind of do, so we can see each one individually. So we know that we want to get some berries because that's going to be part of our food resource. We can see here that we can get some fungus or mushrooms, if we wanted to. So we pretty much have just about everything that we need to have a good understanding. Now, once you've done something, you can click on it. It'll let you know what you can do with each of these trees. It'll let you know that we have a rip out. Now, we have one mechanic, but we haven't unlocked it yet, which means it might be locked behind some knowledge, things like that. So maybe we want to pick up a research center, but we'll let the story kind of tell us what to do from that perspective. But we are... the only thing we have left to do, really, is set up a picker's cabin. Here we go. I'm going to go set it up right here. I think it's a perfect place. We'll have kind of our production. That's actually a bad place for it. We should have placed it on the other side. But you live and learn with this game. It's actually really fun. Now, if you find out you've placed something and you realize it's maybe not the best place for it, you can actually remove it and then replace it. So you just keep that in mind. Now we have our whipping gourd, can pierce some membranes, allowing us to collect the clean water, although the latter tastes like the overripe vegetable. Sounds not so delicious. Now we can see that our purification basins are finally starting to work out. We have a few other things that we can also investigate. But before that, we have our story. So, old friends, we now have all of the necessary basic equipment for our outpost, but seem to be victims of our own success. The call to join the anchoring reached more people than expected. Scientists, neophytes, and onlookers are arriving from all over to trade for their knowledge. If we don't increase our food yield, we risk a lack of resources. We need to anticipate these needs and collect as much food and clean water as possible. We have 2 adults and 3 kids have joined our city, so it's going to expand our workforce. And we have a few tasks ahead of us. We need to build a kitchen, build some simple dishes, and then get some clean water as well. Pretty easy. So under our food menu, we have a few options. We have our cellar, which we've already placed, picker's cabin, we've already placed, and our kitchen. So we're going to go ahead and place our kitchen right there. Might as well place it all in the same area. And it looks like we're running low on some resources, but we have a bunch hanging around. So I think we're in an okay place. Now we also have our picker's cabin set up. So when we select our picker's cabin, we can see picking or trimming. In this case, we want to maybe trim. Because if we trim, I think we get something else. So we might have to just maybe research a little bit more on these particular guys again. So we'll maybe do another research and see if that'll get us anything extra. It's been some time, not long, but we have an additional resource. So we can see that we've already obtained our giant fungus. That's okay. We've already analyzed the hatted tree as well, so we're okay from that perspective. And if we take a look now we're gonna go back to our straw tree, and this is gonna be what's important because we really want to know how we can get what we can get from there. Now on top of that, our kitchen is finally constructed, and we have some simple meals that we can kind of create. And here we have a few different versions of it. We really want to find a version that's going to fit what we want to do. So in this case, we can do mushroom soup. We can take some mushrooms. We can also take some clean water. We can turn this into some simple meals. And we'll also lose two resources from that. So it's just dissociated waste. Now, how we want to do this, we can have add task, and we can do picking or trimming. So remember, our giant fungus tells us if we rip out, we're going to get some mushrooms. I'm afraid to rip this out because if we rip it out, I think it's gone. And we really want to understand if there's something else that we can do maybe to get something. So to that end, really what we want to do is we want to continue to research and try to identify as much as we can, specifically from these straw trees and things like that. And we can see that we've unlocked some additional things. So here we go. We have our straw tree, and if we pick right here, if we pick, we can get some watery pods, and that's the important thing. We really wanted to know that. So in the meantime, we can go ahead and hit pick, and then we can select our watery pods, and they're just going to start off doing its own thing, and they're going to do everything that we want. Again, like I mentioned, this is more of a resource management game. We are running into some production queues with our purification basin. Our second one just not up and running just yet. Might mean that we just need some additional pontoons to kind of go out and do everything that we need. And on top of that, we're running into a resource management issue. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our storage, and we can set up a small warehouse that's going to help us to keep everything kind of up and running in the right direction. Go ahead and extend this path out. And this is what I mean by this game. It's very much meant to be a very relaxing, very chill game, and it's just meant to have a little bit of fun and stuff like that. So, of course, we don't really need all of these notices, but we do have another analysis. So we have our whipping gourd. So originally, we had already obtained what happens with our clean water, so we can rip it out. But if we pick anything, we're going to get hurt. But once we trim off these lianas, we can actually start to pick everything. So that's a really cool way of understanding what happens. We don't want to pick, we want to trim, and we want to maybe rip out. But ripping out again is as a finite trait. So we want to make sure that we're very careful about how we do it. And of course, we have our giant fungus. So we know what happens if we rip out our giant fungus. I'm hoping that by doing this, we're going to identify a new way for us to utilize a giant fungus, maybe in a more of a symbiotic process. So here we go. We've already obtained the ripping out, so it's just not going to work out for us. Sadly, that means that maybe we're going to have to rip out some giant funguses to make some meals. Now we have a few other things all the way down here, so we can maybe set up some additional research. So let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, there we go. Now, so we've already had our pickers and they are working on collecting some berries, but they can't do more than one task. We can only do one. So what that means is we need to go and find another picker's cabin. So we're going to go ahead and set this up on the right side, maybe. I say the right side. It's obviously very situational, but I like to set up in squares for some reason. I don't know. I'm a guy that likes sharp angles for some reason. Who knows? And just like that, we have our workforce. So we have 13 at work. We have 4 people who are not at work. So we know that we have some people kind of hanging around. And we can see our giant fungus. Again, nothing too fancy. We're probably just going to have to rip it out. So once this is set up, we'll assign a worker. And we're going to select the pick. And we can see here we can pick. That's not what we wanted to do. We also didn't want to do that. You want to know why? This is the silly part. Because we can rip it out. So let's go ahead and rip it out like so. And see what happens. How many funguses did we get from that? This is the $1 million question is, did we get enough fungus to operate our wonderful soup kitchen? So we can see that we need to create a few things. And here we go. Cinder, sprout. There we go. We can rip it out for some bark. We can pick it for some bark, so we can have something that's going to be kind of self-sustaining. And then, of course, we can trim for some ashy kernels. And if I'm not mistaken, we saw on here that we can do something with our ashy kernels. We can actually do ashy pancakes, which is actually something that we can do. It's actually a what's the word I'm looking for? Reoccurring resource for that. Now, where was that? Hang on. Here's the $1 million question: is where did we leave that? Thought we just kind of researched it, so it has to be somewhere. It has to be somewhere around here. It took a little bit, but we found them. They're all the way down here. So we want to trim to get some ashy kernels. So we're going to select trim, and we'll just highlight this entire area. There we go. Set up. And just like that, we're going to send our pickers off to work. We're going to assign maybe all 3 of them so we can kind of maximize. And this is going to allow us to maybe pull out some things without necessarily ruining all of our mushrooms, our giant funguses. Now, we do have different seasons, and the seasons will determine what happens. So we can see season 3, cycle 3 is a temperate season, and it'll tell us a little bit about it. So the climate is better than we could have hoped. A few clouds protect us from the sun, and water can be drawn or filtered without too much loss. Then we have our dry season. Hard times are looming, and surviving will require us to have our wits about us. Most plants will wither during the season, as well as some purification basins dry out with the heat. The daily toll is all the harsher for citizens as they risk heat stroke if they're not cautious enough. And then we have temperate season. So we can see that it floats between temperate and maybe a dry season every 4 seasons. So we always want to make sure that we're starting to plan for that. And then, so the only thing we have left to do is really just kind of create some food. So we're going to go ahead and speed it up, and we're going to wait for the game to do its thing, because I think we have everything in hand. Now, lastly, we do have a new analysis. Lastly, we have an analysis, of our petrified giant. So we can rip them out for some additional stone, which is good. We can actually start picking them for some mushrooms, which is exactly what we wanted to find out. We can also trim them for additional stone. So we can see that it's always better to work in harmony with our environment, because we can pick and get some mushrooms. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do. We no longer need these giant funguses. You know what that means? We can start ripping them all out. Say goodbye, Mr. Giant Fungus. Get out of here. Now, in the meantime, while it's doing that, we're going to go ahead and place down another picker's cabin so we can start harvesting all those mushrooms. But just like that, we are working on our kitchen, and we have our production, our efficiency. So a number of citizens, 3, we get per citizen 33%. So as long as we have 3 people working, we'll have 100% efficiency. That's always what we kind of want to achieve. We can see our research is coming through fast and furiously. We've also found seeds if we were to rip out, and we can, during the trimming action, kills the plant. Trimming must be activated at a picker's cabin. So riverbank fingers even partially makes them lose all their fluids and kill them. So we don't want to necessarily trim them either. So we can see that there's 2 more options, and we can kind of continue to do research on these. So let's do some more surface analysis, see what else we can find. Most of it. And we've completed our step, the scientific method. The latest arrivals are disappointed with the scientific equipment at their disposal. Also, they believe we haven't performed the necessary preliminary analysis during our anthropological mission. Any lack of knowledge about the area exposes our team to useless risks. However, they are offering to start these analyses and want a field laboratory dedicated to botany and mycology along with a research center to bring together all of our technological projects. All we have to do is build these using the blueprints they shared with us. Fancy that we've already built one of them, so I think we're okay with that. We're going to set up a research center as well. And we need to find a little bit of a home, and I think it's going to fit perfectly right there. Now, on top of that, we can set up an assignment tower as well. What assignment towers do is they manage transportation for resources, so they can be signed here, and it just improves the research capacity of transfers and stuff like that. And we are running into a little bit of a housing crisis, so let's go ahead and place down some additional homes, start planning for some more people to show up. And just like that, we are in a good place. This is what I mean by this game is meant to be a very relaxing, very chill game. I use that word very lightly in terms of creating something that's going to be kind of fun. So we said we can pick. Was it pick? Yeah. There we go. Pick all those mushrooms. Have successes with a level 4 in knowledge. So we have our research center. We don't have enough people to work though, so we need to kind of maybe unassign some people here. And a drive for renewal. So that was pretty quick. An excavation team on a specific mission has joined us. Its members would like us to use our outpost to search for items they call tablets. These tablets are part of one of the greatest mysteries behind the creation of the anchoring. Many communities scattered all around the world have started digging out such tablets simultaneously without any conscious ambition or coordination of any kind. Although these stone tabs are engraved with unknown glyphs, everyone seems to be intuitively understand them. Each one has triggered a technological leap for those who have discovered them, so it would be wise to start some excavation work right now if we want our scientific equipment to evolve. And just like that, we have to unlock the exploration missions, research, explore a new area, and find one tablet. And how do we do that? We go to our research tree. So select a research project to start. You can only perform research linked to an already completed project. So we've already kind of experienced that. Most games have something very similar to this. We have our core design. We've already unlocked quite a bit of things, and they want us to identify where we can find some missions. There we go, Explorers Hut. So we're going to go ahead and start this. It's going to take us 10 days, but it's going to take us more because we just don't have enough people working here. So the important thing here is we can actually assign some additional workers now. We have some people kind of laying around. Let's see here. Maybe unassign one person from our kitchen as well. One person from this picker's cabin. I think we're doing okay. And we'll continue our game. We have a receipt of analysis, ripping out the orange hydra tree. We kind of already figured that one out. And the riverbank finger. So here we go. We can trim to gain some more seeds, or we can also, if we trim, it kills them. So we can see that nothing too fancy. We already knew that one. Silly. Now, in the meantime, we can see that we've run out of some of these tools. So what we can do is we can adjust if we want to, or we can set up a second kitchen. This is what I meant by it's like more of a resource and production management game. So you can't have a kitchen producing everything. You can't have your pickers picking everything. You can only pick one resource at a time, and you have to be strategic about how you go about doing it. So it's important things like that. We also want to make sure that we manage our water. We can see that we're drinking 80 clean water per day. So it's always good to understand what our production looks like. So maybe we might want to pick up a third purification pool, just in case, so we can start maybe future-proofing. And that's going to be the important thing. On top of that, though, we are running out of resources, so let's go ahead and assign some additional stone to be picked. And we are getting to the point where we can start getting some more resources. We can actually trim stone, which doesn't really make any sense. So we can trim stone from pure petrified giants, but you can see how this game kind of definitely flows through. We haven't really learned anything new from any of those, and that's okay. I think how many people we only have? Okay, good. Our explorer's hut is going to be ready in 3 days. We're almost there. And I think once we unlock that Explorer's Hut, I think that's going to be a perfect time for us to end this episode. But I hope you guys can see the joy that this game brings. And now it's not a game that's going to be on the channel for very long. I might just do another episode just to kind of finish exploring all of the nuances associated with it. But I really wanted you guys to see how this game really kind of worked and how fun it was. Now we have our Explorer's Hut unlocked. Now the question is, where is it? We have it right here. It's going to be under all of our strategies. We can go ahead and place this maybe right here. Perfect fit, like a glove. But we need some bark, and we don't have any bark. So we remember where we can find bark, somewhere around here. One of these many items allowed us to harvest bark, if I'm not mistaken. $1 million question though is where? Where is our bark? Here we go, birch tree, a bunch tree. Let's go ahead and we'll rip out just a few of them. It's not ideal, I realize that, but we're gonna go ahead. Oh, and we can also, we'll also toggle this to rip out as well. We'll get some additional important items there. So yeah, anyway, going back to it, as we wait for our Explorer's Hut to come around, this game is really meant to be played in a fun way. If you're looking for a nice break from a game, you just want to kind of relax and sit back and enjoy something, I think this is a game for you. It's a fantastic way of going about playing a game that's just going to be quite relaxing. And I think that's, at the end of the day, the important thing for us to kind of enjoy. Now, what we are going to do, just because we have a large amount of mushrooms kind of sitting here, we have 56 mushrooms, so we're going to go ahead and swip that over. And once we exhaust all of our mushrooms, maybe we'll switch over to something else. But our Explorer's Hut is finished. Gather a team of scientists to explore the outer reaches of the world. No expedition is progress, so you can start one using the expedition map. So let's go take a look at the world map. So exploration. On the world map, select a destination to launch an expedition. Doing so requires supplies, the quantity of which will depend on the number of citizens you are sending on the expedition. Sending a large number of citizens increases the cost in supplies, but also allows more resources to be carried. It will also reduce the time needed to perform optional tasks on site. Exploring an area reveals its destinations. The further away the area is, the longer the expedition, and the greater the need for supplies. Pretty simple. Makes sense. So we can see we have a strange glow, we have a dune, we have a smoke cloud, and we have a camp. So let's go to the strange glow, because I think if we're going to find anything, it's going to be at the strange glow. And we can assign the amount of people that we want, and we can see how many simple dishes that they require and stuff like that. So let's assign 6. We'll do 6 people. It's going to take 60 days. They're going to be able to transport 90 units, and it's 3 days there, 3 days back. So we're going to go ahead and send them off on the on their merry little way. And then we can see, of course, we have our technological research. So we've finished our research over here. We can kind of continue to research more if we want. We can see some of the things that are blocked. We actually require some additional research as time goes by. So let's take a look. What can we pick up? Advanced harvest methods. Water treatment requires time and resources. We can get a well, maybe. We can get tool production. We can get healthcare. Healthcare is important. Arboriculture. An arborists. It's a tree culture. If we wish to sustainably make use of the trees, the area's trees, we should train some arborists and equip them with logging tools and safety protocols. So we actually need tools in order if we're going to do that. So let's go with tool production first. Be smart about this. We can get some arborists, but if they don't have any tools, I can't really do a whole lot with it. And we are back in a kind of a little bit of a situation. We don't have a lot of workers hanging around. So we have 6 people on production, and we are now in our dry season coming up next. Sorry, dry season coming up next. We can see here, there we go, back to temperate after that. So it's one season. We're going to have to kind of start stockpiling our resources. We have quite a good amount of food and water. I think we're okay. We might want to continue production. Maybe set up another... You know what we're going to want to do? We're going to set up another one of these. I found a nice place for it, though. I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to rip this out. I guess we'll also rip that out. And our expedition, so vaporous images. The explorers discover a small courtyard made of stone and set close to one another. At the center of these courtyards, there are two symmetrical cylinders lying diagonally. When one of the explorers triggers a slab in one of the courtyards, the left cylinder starts hissing steam up towards the sky, while the right cylinder projects light into the steam. Water droplets are used as a screen for projected image, showing a rampart in ruins overlooked by massive towers. It's like a holographic display. So we can analyze the images, which is going to give us 20 culture. We can try and draw some water, which will give us a dice roll. So depending on a random draw, the next choice can have different results. Or we can condense the steam. We just don't have anything like that. To analyze the images. Much to the party's disappointment, it turns out the projected city was never built. The projections only contain the memory of an ambition, a city that would transform with its inhabitants' natural desires instead of creating and structuring said desires. The blueprints are still worth seeing, and the explorers copied the plans and deals behind the project and its notebooks, and we're going to try to draw some water. Cylinders allowing the projectors to create the screen are covered in condensation, which, if delicately treated, can be collected. Due to its origin, the resulting water is particularly rich in minerals. So we actually found 90 water and 2 technological artifacts. Having collected some clean water, the explorers prepare to return home. And just like that, I think that's a good place for us to end. We've gone on our first exploration, which I think is important. We have our research set up, and our city is kind of starting to come together. Now, if you really like this game, I totally recommend that you check it out. It is, again, in early access. So get it while you can, because usually early access means it's going to be slightly cheaper, but it's actually a really fun game to play and just kind of hang around in the background. I can't stress it enough. It's meant to be a game that's just going to be really fun to enjoy and experience. But as always, thank you so much for your support. And of course, ciao for now, everybody.